You're listening to the Rite Retirement Show.
70% of people out there listening to the show today are going to need some level of care. It doesn't necessarily mean that 70% are going to end up in a nursing home, but 70% of people will need some assistance out there. The biggest fear is running out of money for the retiree, but what we see is not enough people spend enough of their money.
Cris prides himself in what matters to you. This is the Rite Retirement Show.
Hello there, I'm Luann Fulmer here again with Cris Wallace. We welcome you to the Rite Retirement Show. Cris is a certified financial planner and financial advisor, president of WG Financial Group. So if you have any questions as we get on with our show today, here's the number to call, 256-937-2010. That's the way to reach out to Cris for a complimentary visit. You may call or you may text the word visit, 256-937-2010. And remember to check us out on Facebook throughout the week. We record this show during the week. So if anything happens that's newsworthy, Cris will certainly update his Facebook page, okay? WG Financial Group 256. Remember, you're going to hear us talk about our motto, plan, retire, play. That is what Cris and our awesome team want for you. Find us online at wgfinancialgroup.com. And also remember, this show is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just search for The Rite Retirement Show. Cris, excited to get started with you again today.
Yeah, excited to be here with you, Luann. We are Gramless again.
Gramless.
He'll be back next week.
It sounds so funny. Gramless. Yeah.
Yeah,
but,
Gramless.
Yep.
I didn't talk to him this week, actually, so I hope hope he's okay.
He's still in Europe, right?
Yeah,
So
he's in Europe somewhere.
They must be having a great time then.
That's right.
Yeah.
I hope so.
I know. I can't wait to hear all about it. And I pray he didn't get sick this time, right? The last vacation they tried, he did not do well.
That's right.
All right. So let's go ahead and just get started with a little bit of a market update, please.
Yeah. So right now, all major indices are actually flat. And as most people know, we record on Tuesdays. So actually the market is really up today considerably. But if we look at just on the year, all three major indices are flat. So the Dow, the NASDAQ, the S&P, they're all basically right there at flat.
Okay.
And this is data as of Friday. And then if you look at the aggregate bond index, it's actually up 1.5%. So, one of the things we've been talking about over the past couple of years is just the fact that bond performance has just been terrible. But here lately, the bonds on the year are actually outperforming the market year to date. So that's kind of good.
Yeah.
But what's going on here right now is like, are we going to tariff or what? Because it's like one day we're doing tariffs and the next day, just kidding. We're going to be nice. We're going to pause them. And over the weekend, President Trump agreed to delay the 50% tariffs on the European Union. I guess they had some sort of a conversation. And of course, that's what's causing the markets to respond positively today. And I just want to say this again. It just goes to show you why you can't time this stuff. So let's just say, for an example, it's holiday weekend. You're out of the market because you're not sure what's going to happen. And then this happens over the weekend. There's nothing you can do about it. You're out grilling burgers. It's a holiday weekend. This news breaks. The market's going to take off on Monday. And that's exactly what has happened. So just a reminder to all investors, all retirees, one, have a long-term plan in place, whether you're a pre-retiree or you're a retiree, and stick to it. Stick to your plan. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't make, modifications along the way, but we shouldn't be making radical adjustments. So trust in the process, trust your plan, stick to it because you just don't know what's going to happen there. And then we'll move into a little bit of something that I found a little bit funny to me, and I've been watching this over the past several weeks. So if we look at consumer spending, it's still pretty elevated. It's still trending upward, but the sentiment is really low. So I went to Trading Economics. I actually put this on our Facebook page before the show.
Good.
So you can see a graphical illustration
it's a good graph,
of this. Yeah. So put this together from Trading Economics, and it's essentially what I kind of titled it as, are we talking out both sides of our mouth? So are we really worried about the economy and consumer sentiment's really low? Is there a recession coming? Meanwhile, we're spending like crazy. And if you've listened to the show long enough, you know that consumer spending is about 70% of GDP. So as long as consumer spending is still elevated, unemployment is still really low, I don't really care exactly what sentiment is saying, because Sentiment's been low in previous times. It's actually today, it's probably the lowest it's been since 2022, but consumer spending is still elevated. So it's like, okay, we're worried. I'm speaking from the consumer standpoint. We're really worried about the economy, yet we're still traveling. We're still going out to eat. We're still buying things at this point. So that's kind of why I titled it, Are We Speaking Out Both Sides of Our Mouth?
I like that. Yeah.
Yeah, not too worried at this point. I do wish I wish certain people, won't name names, wouldn't post so much on social media and be careful how they say things because words matter. Words matter in our relationships, our marriages, our personal relationships, our friendships, and they matter if you're head of a country as well. So
that certain person?
Yeah, I just wish he would somebody take his phone away or something like that.
I know. Yes.
Yeah.
Overnight. Don't let him tweet. Yeah.
Can we just have a normal week?
Right.
Can my job just be normal for a week so I don't have to read all the headlines because it's kind of crazy. So
oh my goodness. Okay. Now there's something new that we want to start right now. You had mentioned, and we're going to call them the federal minutes.
Yeah,
right?
The
like the
minutes,
federal
right.
papers, but the federal minutes or Fed minutes. So I'm excited. What do you have here for us?
Yeah, so we kind of did this a little while back. We took a break from it, and I want to bring it back. And the reason why I want to bring back Fed minutes to the show is there has been, I think there's been 2 rounds of DRP. So basically the deferred retirement plan that the government employees have. So basically it's the deferred resignation program. Okay. So essentially, they were offered a package. Certain employees were offered a package. Well, actually, not certain employees. All employees were offered an option to basically leave, and they would pay you through a certain amount of time. Well, there's been 2 rounds of that. There's also been talk of something called a VERA and a VSIP, and this is basically voluntary retirement options that you have. And then the VSIPs where they can pay you a certain amount of money, kind of like I'm trying to think of the word here, but if you leave, we'll pay you a certain amount of money.
Well, so there's like a severance package or something. Like a severance package,
exactly. Yeah, something along those lines. And so I thought it would be a good idea with all of these things floating around, with a lot of people retiring, because a lot of people who didn't take the DRP the first time, they took it the second time.
Right. That's what I was going to inject here, is that I was listening to the Doge committee last night talking on the news, and one guy was saying it was a great package. People were like, it's an apple with a razor blade in it. And he was like, no, it was a nice, juicy apple. And the people that did not take it the first time with the $8,000 are taking it the second time. So, yeah.
Yeah, they are. And so we work with a lot of federal employees here in Huntsville. I mean, I don't know the percentage. It's a decent percentage that we work with. And the first round, I think there was a lot of, I love the word scuttlebutt. Yes. I think I said that before. But there was, a lot of talking internally. It's like, we don't trust this. And is it going to work? And how's this really happen? Afraid. So the first round, a lot of people didn't take it. Right. I mean, you had some that did. There was a lot that didn't. But the second round, when it came out, and I think some of their guinea pig buddies took it, so to speak. Right. Those people that were on the fence with it and just not trusting it, finally came back and said, all right, well, they did it and it's working. Right. So we're going to do it. And so I just thought it would be a good idea to just start discussing certain things as we kind of move forward with federal employees retiring. So one of the things that I want to remind you to do is, if you're leaving, before you leave, before your last day, is go ahead and download your EOPF. That's your electronic official personnel folder. And you want to do this, you want to download it, because once you're gone, your ability to go back and request or download all of this personal information on your history at the government, you're not going to be able to do it. So before you leave, go ahead and download your EOPF. That's one thing I want to highlight there.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. And then those that are, getting ready to retirement, I want to just touch base on healthcare for a few minutes. So each week, I'm going to try to touch a little different area of the federal benefits program. So I want to touch on healthcare today, because later in the show, I believe I kind of skimmed through the notes there, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about healthcare and stuff like that later on in the show. So if you're planning to take FEHB into retirement with you, so FEHB, Federal Employees Health Benefits, in order to take that with you in retirement, you need to have it 5 years prior to retirement. Ooh. And if you don't have it, and most people do, that's the thing. Most people do. So you need to have it 5 years prior to retirement, and you need to be retiring on an immediate annuity, an immediate pension in order to carry that with you. If you're on TRICARE with the military, so a lot of times we have people that are federal employees, but they're retired military. So when you're retired military, you can have TRICARE. So a lot of our families take TRICARE. So if you have TRICARE and had TRICARE, your TRICARE time does count towards those 5 years.
Okay.
Now, why is this important? It's important because you may want to have options in retirement. So I would say that the vast majority of individuals that were military and carry TRICARE, that's their main insurance. They don't care about anything else. But it's just important for you to know you have options. Like we always want to know as humans what options we have. I mean, Luann, when you go to a restaurant, you look at a menu that has many options, right?
Yes.
So when a military person that has individual that has TRICARE, they can then also sign up for FEHB, and they can literally do that in their last year there and use the TRICARE as time towards that 5 year amount that I was talking about earlier for FEHB. And then they can retire and have two options. Now, they may still not want to carry FEHB, but what they can do is suspend it.
Oh.
So you can have TRICARE, and then you can also sign up and take FEHB, but then when you go to officially retire, well, then you can just suspend FEHB. The reason that's important is you may, who knows, get 10 years down the road, I don't know, maybe 5, and you're deciding, you know what, I don't like TRICARE. I don't like the coverage or whatever, even though it's really cheap. It's a great benefit, but you have an option if you've carried FEHB with you into retirement and suspended it, well, then you can unsuspend it in an open enrollment period. Oh. So I like to have options. I think it's worth it just in case, what if TRICARE benefits change in the future? I don't know what could happen. It's just my job as the radio show host here and financial advisor is to just tell you what your options are. So I do have some families that are military and they do elect to go ahead and sign up for a little bit of FEHB and then suspend it. That way they have two options in retirement. Most of them do just carry the TRICARE. Now, let's say you're a retiree and FEHB, what FEHB does is it allows you to have really good insurance prior to Medicare, really good insurance. Like you don't have to worry about qualifying. You just take it with you into your retirement. So we have a lot of government employees who do retire early because now they have FEHB there as an option there. When you get to Medicare, FEHB then acts just like a supplement. So you'll have your Medicare and then you'll have FEHB on the back side of that as kind of like your supplement. And I actually think it's probably a little bit better than your normal like Plan G or Plan N supplement. Just because one, you're used to it. You've had it the whole time. You go to the same doctors. You just kind of carry it with you. It does, it does that same type of coverage. But the cool thing about FEHB that's a little bit different than a supplement is what it covers. So let me give you an example. If we're age 65, we're on Medicare, we have a supplement. Let's just say we have a Plan G supplement. And for some reason, we go to the doctor and we have to have a test or something that's not covered by Medicare, well, then your supplement's not going to cover it. Your, Plan G type supplement. So if Medicare doesn't cover it, the supplement's not going to cover it. However, if you have Medicare and you have FEHB and that same situation occurs and Medicare doesn't cover it, but the FEHB plan does cover it, then it will cover it. Some or all of it, depending on what the test or whatever you had done procedure. So I tend to think FEHB is a great, health plan for a retiree. Most of our clients that are federal employees, federal retirees, they take it with them and they have that as their secondary, to Medicare. So, so that's a little bit on the Fed Minute. Like I said, I'm going to be going over a little bit each week, just going to kind of randomly pick different parts of the federal benefits program and just kind of highlight a couple things that are important. So just to kind of recap what we talked about here today, download your EOPF. That's important, your electronic official personnel folder before you leave. And then make sure that you're making the right decisions for your healthcare. I didn't even get into, obviously, every year during open season, you can change. Federal government has many different plans you can offer, or they offer, that you can choose from. We're big advocates of high deductible health plans and HSAs. So if you're a high income earner and looking for ways to defer tax, then HSAs are great for that. You guys that are longtime listeners have heard me talk about this a bazillion times on the radio. But just know that through the federal government, you do have that option as well. The vast majority of the listeners listening to the show in Alabama right now, they pretty much take Blue Cross Blue Shield. That's pretty much what everybody has. But there are different options out there available, and you can review those once a year. So that's kind of our Fed Minute.
All right. Well, and I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today. You're listening to the Rite Retirement Show, where Cris is explaining everything you need to do the right way as far as retirement goes, and great information there. I'm so glad you talked about that. That whole, the Fed Minute's going to be great, I think. Talking about last night, what I said, seen on the news, man, there's a lot of information that is in your personal file. I mean, like a huge book, practically. Yeah. So make sure you do get that information before you actually retire. So, okay. So I want to move on now to just talking.
Before we move in, I wanted to mention something because you've said the Rite Retirement Show now a couple times.
Yes.
I just want to kind of talk about that for a second.
Oh, sure.
So I was trying to think, we've changed the names of the show a couple times. The very first time, we used to call it Your Retirement Matters. And what I later found out after doing some investigation, trying to trademark the name of the show, Your Retirement Matters. And what I found out was, although we had been using the show name since like 2016, somebody, I think it was 2018 or 2019, I can't remember because it's been a while back now, they trademarked Your Retirement Matters. So I was like, okay. So I could probably get away with still using it. But now somebody's trademarked, and I don't want any cease and desist showing up at my mailbox. No. Any time for that. So we ended up changing it. We changed it to the Rocket City Retirement Show, and that was great. I love it because it's got the Huntsville feel and all of that. So I love that show name. But I just felt like here recently we're doing so much with our Rite Retirement acronym that we use. It's a big part of our planning process. It's a big part of our service process with our clients during the service model when they're already a client and we're doing reviews and such, that I just felt like we should just name the show the Rite Retirement Show. And that way, all of our marketing is congruent. It all, follows. When people come in, they can expect to see the RITE as part of their process. So we've really done a lot to build that out. And that's retirement income, investments, taxes, tax efficient strategies, and then also estate and legacy. And so when we say the Rite Retirement Show, it's RITE, and we want to make sure you're doing it the right way. Because we feel like if you address those pillars in retirement, then we feel like your retirement has a really good chance to succeed, barring that you've provided all the correct information that we need to put it all into the softwares correctly and build out your plan correctly. So that's the reason that we made the change, just so everything is congruent to what our messaging is. Yeah,
I'm so glad you brought that up. The Rite Retirement Show, and you take them through the right retirement process as you're planning for them. So, and we talk about
Not
it all
the wrong
here.
one.
Not the wrong one, the right one.
The right one.
Exactly. And that's all what we talk about on our show,
sure.
every single weekend. So I want to talk now about making sure that your wealth lasts and works for you. And I want Cris to explain why this concern exists, even for successful people, which is so interesting to me. So, Cris, you're going to also share some practical strategies, of course, for helping build confidence in someone's financial future. So, according to a recent study from Global Atlantic, 2/3 of investors, 2/3 are worried that their retirement income may not last their lifetime. 3 out of 10 say they're extremely or very concerned. Why is this such a big fear for people planning for retirement, Cris?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, and this is something that we mentioned on the show quite a bit, but when you turn off the faucet of income, so that's your job, and all you have is what you've put away and you've saved in your 401k, 403b, 457, any of those types of plans. That's all that you have. And that whole psychological thing that we talk quite a bit about is like during our working years, we're pushing money into those retirement plans. And that's just become like a big habit. And we've watched it grow. And now all of a sudden we've got to turn around And we got to start going the opposite direction of with that money flow. We've got to start pulling money out. Sometimes we see the balance dropping. We see the market, doing what it's doing, kind of bouncing around. We saw it dip during 18. We saw COVID in 20. We saw the inflationary impacts of 2022. And now this year started off a little bit rough. So, as you see your balance wiggling and moving and you're pulling money out of it, it creates a little bit of anxiety for a lot of people. And I think for a lot of people, it is the biggest concern that they have. And in this study here, I think you mentioned that, what you said, 2/3
Yes.
are worried about their retirement income may not last throughout their lifetime. So it is a fear. 3 out of 10 say they're very concerned.
Yeah.
Now, if you're very concerned, I would imagine that you probably didn't save enough. And
Right.
maybe that's it, right? But even the 2/3, there's still a concern there. But here's kind of the reality, and this is the way I kind of try to calm people's minds down about it, is if you see your balances dropping and you're taking big withdrawals out to do certain things, you can always maybe slow down on some excess spending. Like we know we're going to have a certain amount to pay for our living expenses, our health care, groceries, insurance, all that stuff. But let's just say we're traveling and we're doing a lot of travel. Well, if all of a sudden the account takes a large hit, well, we can always adjust that. We don't have to go on 2 or 3 trips that year. Maybe we just go on one trip. So I'm of the mindset that, while this may be a fear, and rightfully so, because now you're not working and you're pulling money out, it is one that we can somewhat control. There are some things that we can control, and that's some of our spending or excess spending. The other thing that I don't think a lot of people think about is you're more likely to spend less later on in retirement. So during the first, say, 10 years of the average person's retirement between age 60 and 70, you should be, and you are likely to spend a lot more because you're going to be doing some of those things that you can do while you're mobile, and you're doing those extra travel trips and things like that. But when you hit your, low to mid 80s, you're probably not going to spend as much. So I don't think enough people think about that. But I do think there's a lot of people right now that are listening to the show. They don't spend enough of their money. And I think at the beginning of the show, one of the sound mashups or sound bites that our producer did is that's what we see a lot. Like we see people that have enough money. They've got enough money to make it all the way through, but they're not spending enough of their money early on in retirement. And again, it points back to that huge psychological shift that someone has to make when they retire. And it has to become comfortable. I call it the retirement rhythm. It takes a little while to develop what I call the retirement rhythm, where you get in a rhythm of taking money out. You're feeling okay. All right. Yep. I'm trusting the plan. Sometimes that takes about 3 months. Sometimes it takes, 1.5 to 2 years to get into that retirement rhythm. But everybody eventually reaches that point where they're not as concerned. It's just because it feels different. The feeling of being retired,
it feels different.
It feels different. And I would love to sit here and say, I'm on the other side of this mic and I'm like, hey, it's fine. Don't worry about it. No, I've never been in that position.
Right.
But I've sat in the conference room in my office with people that have.
You've seen it.
Yes. And I felt their anxiety and I've seen it. And I try to combat that with data and practical solutions that can, help them fight off those demons in their head, because that's exactly what they are. It's just the devil messing with you. So, causing those negative thoughts. But that's how we do it. Do it at the office, build a plan, and just try to do some counseling at the same time, if you will.
Right. And you build that plan with concerns like inflation and healthcare costs. And that way you can continue with that retirement rhythm and not be so concerned.
Yeah, we do actually. And I think when it comes to healthcare, that's one of the big unknowns that I think a lot of families, I don't think they understand like the healthcare side of it, because I think also they get it kind of mixed up with long-term care as well. And I think healthcare is really confusing, just to be honest with you. So I've asked people before, they'll come in for a meeting and we go through our discovery process. And part of that discovery process is, do you have long-term care insurance? And they'll say, maybe they're still working. They'll say, yes. Oh, yes, I have long-term care. And I was like, okay, do you have long-term disability or do you have long-term care? Like AKA
Right.
nursing home insurance. You go into a nursing home. Do you have, oh, no, I don't have that. So I think sometimes when, people in general just think about healthcare, it's confusing. What is Medicare? When do I have to sign up? What's the window and what does it cover? And what other types of insurance should I, get? And I think that's one of the areas where I feel like makes our firm different is that we understand it at our firm. And we also not only, I'm licensed internally to talk about it. I'm also licensed to take care of certain parts of Medicare insurance for families and individuals. And I have been health insurance licensed since 2010. So no, 2009. Let me go back. 2009. So a while. So I've been not only a financial advisor and a certified financial planner, I also have these other licenses that I've had for quite a while where I understand the different things that a family's going to have to go through. And I can usually walk them through at a high level to really help them understand what they're going to need to do, especially when it comes to healthcare. I think when families come to see us, what they're looking for is they're looking for a firm that can do all of that. They want somebody that can build out their retirement income plan. They want somebody that can take a look at their investments and help them grow and last and do all the things that they need them to do in retirement. But they also would love it if the advisory office had like a Medicare channel to it. In other words, if there were Medicare questions, could that firm, like our firm, we can answer those questions. And if they come up for somebody in retirement, if our clients are retiring and turning 65, we know what to tell them to do for Medicare. I think a family's also looking for a firm that can offer some tax efficient strategies. And I'm not talking about buying the whole life insurance and taking your distributions tax free. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how to tax efficiently, according to the tax code and the way it's written, pull money out of a portfolio in a tax efficient manner. Do you understand the capital gains rates? Do you understand marginal versus effective? Do you understand where the NIIT bracket is and how that affects married people, how that affects a single individual? Those are the types of things that we're looking at. And our process, Luann, that we take people through is that RITE process that I talked about earlier. We have several touch points that we look at. And we will kind of score a family or individual on how they're doing on those touch points within my Rite Retirement process. And that enables us to really highlight and show a family, okay, we can help you in all of these areas. And I think that's what families are looking for nowadays. They're not just looking for a broker. They're looking for a firm like ours that does all of the things in retirement. They can literally come sit down with one of our advisors on staff, and we can walk them through how to walk through all of the areas of their retirement picture using our Rite Retirement process. And Luann, I know that we're up against a little bit of a break here, but I want to go through some additional healthcare statistics when we come back from the break. So I know that if you're listening to this show right now, you're probably catching it on the way to church. So again, would encourage you to hop out to Apple Podcast or Spotify, listen to the whole episode. I'm actually going to go over a couple statistics on healthcare that I dug up pre-show just to have as extra meat there, just to help people understand what they're up against when it comes to healthcare and retirement. So if you'd like to give us a call, set up your discovery session, you can do that by 256-937-2010. Again, the number's 256-937-2010. Give us a call for your discovery session.
Are questions about your financial future, such as, have I saved enough? Or will my retirement last? Keeping you up at night? Text VISIT to 256-937-2010. That's text VISIT to 256-937-2010 and schedule your consultation today.
Quarters, just 25 cents. That's hardly anything, right? But Cris Wallace and his team at WG Financial see quarters a little differently. A quarter is a lot when it's a quarter of your retirement savings. Now, do you want to pay 25% or more in taxes during your retirement? Well, Cris can create a plan to help address that. Now, if the only time you think about taxes is when you file them, you don't have a tax strategy. But it's not too late to get one with the help from Cris Wallace. So act now to make sure you're not paying a quarter, dime, or even a penny more than you should. Call Cris Wallace and his team at WG Financial at 256-937-2010 to schedule your personalized tax strategy session. A quarter saved is a quarter earned. Call 256-937-2010 now. That's 256-937-2010. Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Firm may not give tax advice.
If lingering doubts like, have I saved enough? Or will my retirement funds endure? Are on your mind, it's time to consult with Cris Wallace. Text VISIT to 256-937-2010. That's 256-937-2010 to book your appointment and get the answers you need.
Again, you're listening to the Rite Retirement Show with my friend Cris Wallace. He is president of WG Financial Group. He's a certified financial planner and financial advisor, and they are a team who are passionate about helping retirees like you. That is why we are here every single weekend. You can find us online at wgfinancialgroup.com. And I'm Lou Ann Fulmer. Thank you so much for joining us today. Okay, Cris, so I'm excited to hear what you kind of pulled up to continue our healthcare discussion now.
Yeah. So this will be one of your largest expenses in retirement is going to be healthcare. So according to an article I just pulled from CNBC, they said that healthcare is going to really be about 25% of your Social Security. That's a lot.
Yeah.
If you think about it. So like if you get $4,000 a month in Social Security, that they're saying that health insurance for some people will be, $1,000 of that, 25%. So that's quite a bit. According to a Fidelity study that I saw, and this is different than the Fidelity study that you and I always reference. 65-year-old couple spend $300,000.
Right.
According to this Fidelity study that I pulled, a 65-year-old couple, first year in retirement, retiring 65 years old, will spend about $12,800 in healthcare in the first year.
Okay, first year.
Yeah, first year. Yeah. And you know what?
Wow.
So we have a software that we use at the office is kind of our base model to build plans off of, and it pulls in data from actually a study I'm going to reference here in just a minute from several areas, but one of which is Milliman. So they do some retiree health studies as well. And this number, this 12,800 for a 65-year-old couple is really close to what the software tells us it's going to be. So it was kind of, for me, it was comforting to see this number because it's in line with the number that we use in the system. So that's important to know. It's going to be expensive, and you're going to have to be able to plan for that. So according to a Milliman study done in 2024, and this was looking at, they did a study with your Medicare, your Plan G, and your Part D, and then they also did one with the Advantage plan. So we're going to focus on the original Medicare, the Medigap plan, Plan G, G as in George, and the Part D for drugs, your prescription plan. And what they said was this is the projected figure. If you were a 65-year-old couple retiring in 2024, they project the male in the relationship to spend, total spend, $281,000, and female would be about $320,000.
Wow.
So you would need, as a male, in after-tax dollars, somewhere around $188,000. So total spend $281,000. You would need your savings would need to be about $188,000. Female would be about $207,000. These are after-tax figures there. But if you compare that to what they projected in 2022, 3, and 24, they've gone up significantly every year, somewhere around 4.5% to 5% every year. So healthcare is going to be expensive. And the other thing that it's really cool about this study is, maybe I'll throw this link out on Facebook as well. That way you can reference it. But the state matters also. So just kind of looking at like Alabama and Tennessee.
Right.
Kind of fall right in that lower average that we're talking about. But if you go down to Florida, it's like the most expensive state when it comes to original Medicare plus Medigap plan plus Part D is the most expensive.
Is that because so many retirees are headed down there? Maybe?
Yeah, more than likely. And then you notice too, earlier when I mentioned these numbers, the female number was higher, right?
Right, yes.
And so Milliman just basically says that's because of longevity.
They're living longer. Okay.
Yeah. So it's kind of neat to look at this because it depends on where you live. And in Florida, when you have original Medicare, a Plan G and Part D is the most expensive, bar none. But it changes if you have a Medicare Advantage plan. So then Florida then becomes one of the cheaper ones. And then oddly enough, Minnesota, I'm not sure why this is, but Minnesota, no relationship to my Vikings, by the way. Yeah, it is the most expensive, along with couple of the states up in the northeastern part of the United States.
Interesting.
It is. So this is just really, I don't know. I'm kind of a data nerd. I like to look at this kind of stuff. But the bottom line is, here's the message in all of this. So work with someone, an advisory firm or an advisor who understands Medicare, how it's going to impact your plan, and make sure you have a plan for it. Make sure you understand when you get to that 65, if you're not a federal employee or you're not a retired military with TRICARE, you're going to have to buy your insurance, in addition to Medicare. You're going to have Medicare, but you're also going to usually pick up a Medicare supplement, Part D prescription plan. You need to understand what do those things cover, because when you look at supplements, not only do you have a Plan G, because that's what I've referenced, because that's what the study was done on, you also have something called Plan N. N as in Nancy. So you have two different types of supplements that you can get. Some people, if you're a little bit older, you were grandfathered in under the F as in Frank plan. But nowadays it's pretty much, G and N. And then your Advantage plan, which is commonly known as Part C in Medicare. So you want to understand your options. What are the pros and cons of each? I know that we've had people come in and they'll tell us we learned a lot more in our conversation here than we could have in 2, 3, 4 hours of research on the internet.
Oh yeah.
It's always better, in my opinion. I want to have an intelligent conversation with someone who understands this stuff.
Oh, I'm with you 100%.
I would rather not look at how to rebuild my engine in my car myself. I would rather just take it to a mechanic who's done it before and say, hey, can you just help me understand, what I need to do here? And then I'm just going to let you do it. You tell me what I should do, and we'll go from there. So,
yes, exactly.
Yeah. Healthcare is expensive. That's the bottom line. Better plan for it, and make sure you understand what you're getting into.
I know. I got to share with you, my sister, she's only 72, but she's going downhill. She had a stroke, and I'm very worried about she and her husband. I have no idea what their finances are like. They were self-employed their whole lives, so I don't know what we're going to do, but she's having a terrible time right now. Walking, she's on a walker, and honestly can't do all of her 6 acts of daily living, Chris. So
she can't?
No.
How many is she doing?
Oh, I don't know.
Okay.
A few, but I have to help. I had to go help her shower, I mean, it's getting bad. She can't go down her stairs. She can't get out. I'm very worried about her. So anyway, you bring that up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's going to happen to them financially. I don't think they're set up.
Yeah. Let me touch on that. You bring up something. This is what I love about the show. We can go a lot of different directions because it's not, we have notes, but it's not scripted. Right. So it makes a lot of fun. So you had mentioned they're self-employed.
They were self-employed both their entire lives. Yeah.
Yeah. So I run into this kind of thing with self-employed individuals. Couple reasons why. When you're self-employed, the tendency that I see is I think people want to itemize away as much as they can to try to not pay taxes. I mean, obviously that's the goal of like every American citizen out there is how do I pay as little tax as possible?
Well, sure.
But if you're like itemizing everything away, i.e. you're not showing enough income, then you may not be paying enough into Social Security. And that's part of the problem that I've seen with individuals that come to me and they were self-employed for most of their life. Is they just didn't pay. They have very small Social Security payments because they didn't pay themselves enough salary to pay more into Social Security. And part of that reason is itemization away and try to pay less in tax. And then by doing so, you're hurting yourself on the Social Security side of things. You still have the Medicare, but you just not making as much money in retirement as you could. And then I also find it pretty common with most self-employed individuals is they aren't saving enough for retirement. So they're itemizing away things, and depending on your income levels will depend on what amounts you can put into which types of retirement plans. So for self-employed individuals, you have your normal IRA, you may have a simple IRA, you might have a SEP IRA, or if you're just a solo entrepreneur, you might have a solo 401k. Well, your income for some of those affects how much you can actually put in to those types of plans.
Mm-hmm.
So I think for self-employed individuals, it's great because you're quote unquote your own boss, but you're really not, because your clients are your boss.
Right.
And,
That's right.
I may be my own boss, right? I own WG Financial Group, but really my clients are my boss. I want to make sure that they're, taken care of, and I listen to their feedback and such. So, but I see those types of problems with self-employed individuals.
Good. Yeah.
And then also just not having long-term care. So
yeah,
it sounds like they maybe they don't have long-term care either.
Don't know the situation. So I'm going to find out today, actually, when I go over and see her and just kind of talk to them. But anyway, you just made me think of her, and that's where my heart is right now. I'm worrying about my big sister. So
that's your heart stop today you were talking about before show.
Exactly. Okay. Yep. So, okay. So anyway, let's kind of, move on to, let's talk about the 3 main pillars of financial stability as we move on with the content that we have. And I do want to give out your phone number, if you don't mind, real quick. I want to make sure everybody has that handy. If you have questions as we go through our show today, our number to call is 256-937-2010. You may call or text the word visit. Okay. And we can communicate that way. Get on the calendar going and see Chris. He would love to give you some guidance on anything that comes up on our show today. Then you have a question about it. So, okay. So let's get into this. 3 pillars of financial stability. When you're building a house, right? You would never just, not start without a proper foundation. But some people do that with retirement planning. They just focus on maybe their investments or something like that. So let's talk about the essential pillars that do help form the foundation of a confident retirement plan, Chris.
Yeah. So obviously we use the RITE model. So we're going to talk about 3 of those today.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think retirement income is the first one. It's the R, it's retirement income. If you do not have income in retirement, you cannot retire. You must keep working, because if you don't have income, how are you going to pay your bills?
Yes.
It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. So generating reliable income is crucial. That is the foundation of every retirement. That's going to be your Social Security. If you're married, it's going to be both your Social Securities. If you're fortunate enough to work for an institution or the government, or you're in the military, retired military, where you have a pension, great. That's just a stronger base of retirement income. But that's the kind of the R in the process. The I is really for your investments, and making sure that you're, allocated the right way, making sure that you're not using expensive investments. We also want to make sure that you have the right types of investments in the right types of accounts, because we've done snippets on previous shows where we talked about having mutual funds generating certain types of capital gains in a non-qualified account. So we want to make sure that all the types of investments that you have are in the right types of accounts. And then we want to look at the tax efficiency of things, because tax efficient strategies really overlooked in a lot of cases. And one of the reasons I think that looking at tax efficiency is overlooked is I don't think people understand it. Frankly, there are advisors out there today, probably some listening to the show, that don't understand the impact of taxes and how withdrawals coming out of an account impact that. I know that when I have new advisors join the firm, that's the one thing that we're preaching to them is if you do this, then it impacts this. It's kind of like the if-then statements. And, our softwares are kind of designed to help alert our internal advisory staff if there's going to be a problem. So we're looking at, your income, but also your modified adjusted gross income and kind of where you're falling in those brackets to be able to become pretty efficient or as efficient as we think you can. So tax efficient strategies, again, really important. So those are really the 3, and they all work together. They really do. So your income, probably going to generate some tax. Your income may be pulled from your investments, may generate some tax. So they all work together, and not utilizing them all 3 together efficiently, big downfall of a lot of people that I see.
Right, exactly. Okay. So the landscape for retirement has actually changed from what previous generations experienced. And gosh, we've been talking about that since you and I started, doing this radio show. What specific challenges make having all these 3 pillars so important?
Doing this radio show, speaking of 385 shows ago.
Yeah,
like that,
right? Wow.
Like
that's a whole year worth of radio shows.
Yeah, every day.
Over a year. Yeah, yeah.
Boy, we'd really get on some people's nerves if we were on the radio more than we already are.
Day. Exactly. I know.
All right. So yeah, how's the landscape changed? So wow, people are living longer for sure. I mean, you can just look at history and see that. Now, here recently, I think there's been a little bit of a drop in longevity, but still way longer than what people were living, say, 50 years ago. The difference in pensions, yeah, I'm seeing fewer and fewer of those. And if you just look this stuff up, it's all like you're able to Google this kind of stuff and get the data on it. But essentially, less than 15 to 20% of companies are offering pensions nowadays. And the federal government being the largest employer in the United States, they obviously still offer pensions, but there's just fewer of them. And that puts a lot more responsibility on the retiree, the employee working, and self-employed or not. You got to save money, because you're not going to have the pension, and you got to figure out when you do get to retirement, how do I generate income from those investments? Market volatility. I know that we've had some pretty gnarly drops throughout history, but it just seems like market volatility is a lot worse here recently. I mean, and I don't know if it has to do with just social media being out there and it's all in our face, and, words matter, as we talked about earlier. But, market volatility is a lot more of a concern nowadays. And then you've got the rising cost of healthcare. And then tax uncertainty, like they're trying to get a tax bill passed and it's passed through the House. Is it going to pass the Senate? And, on top of that, we got this growing national debt that is being thrown in our face all the time. And our congressmen and women don't know how to not spend money, not accumulate debt.
It's not theirs, and they are very frivolous with it.
Yeah.
Right?
It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So all of these things, the landscape, you talked about the landscape. It's just, it's changed, right? I mean, it's just definitely changed versus the way it was 25, 30, 40 years ago.
Right. So true. So why don't we focus on tax strategies right now, tax efficient strategies, and tell us why it is sometimes overlooked in retirement planning, which I find it very almost not comical, but amusing. Like, how could that be overlooked?
Yeah, I think the reason it's overlooked is I think people just expect to pay taxes. They just like, okay, well, I'm going to have to pay some level of tax. But there are ways to, be more efficient. So I'll give you an example. And we've talked about this type of example in the show before. We know, because if you listen to the show long enough, if you just have Social Security and that's it. So husband and wife, let's say they have $4,000 a year in Social Security coming in, or a month, $4,000 a month, not a year. That'd be $48,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
They're in a zero bracket. Because of that, and because of the standard deduction and the way that the money works on the tax return, they have a little window of about, I'm going to roughly speak here, roughly about 20,000, maybe 21, that they could pull out without any federal tax whatsoever. And here in Alabama, if you're 65 or older, you get another $6,000 of relief there on the state side. So the point being is some people that are taking Social Security again, and that's all their income, they're missing an opportunity to take some money out without tax. And that's just important to know. And it's also kind of a, hey, I didn't know it mistake.
Right.
It's not going to hurt you, but it's definitely not helping you. So in that situation, let's say that you were able to live on $48,000 a month or a year. Sorry, I keep getting this confused. $48,000 a year. You're living on that, $4,000 a month. You're able to pay all the bills and you live a pretty simple lifestyle. Not taking that money, that extra money is not going to hurt you. It's not going to blow up your plan, but you're missing an opportunity where we would say, hey, just Roth convert that, take that free $20,000, pay the little bit of state tax that you're going to have to pay on it and Roth convert it, So I think for some people, they just don't know certain things because they're not working with an advisory firm that kind of understands how to maximize these types of situations. And I think also when we look at just taxes in general, I think most people think their tax bracket's going to go down, and it probably will, to be honest with you. And I've heard this argument online. I've seen it in reels. I've had it with other advisors. Your tax bracket is likely to go down, and here's why. I believe one of the really good rules of thumb that you can use out there is the 80% rule. And that means that your lifestyle in retirement is probably going to be 80% of your income that you were making while you were working. Unless you're making like 400,000, you're probably not going to spend 80% of that. But under a normal salary, I think 80% is probably a good rule of thumb, because from that you have FICA, you have your retirement plan savings. And if you use 80%, you can probably have a pretty comfortable retirement on 80%. The reason I bring that up is we know that when you start Social Security, and let's say that you have other income like pensions, we know that only 85% of your Social Security can be taxed. So that's 15% better, i.e. 15% lower than when you were working. So I think some people think that it's going to be lower, and it probably will, but then you've got some that it might be about the same. But I think you got to know that going into it. And the only way you know that is if you plan for it and understand it. So most retirement accounts, this is something else that most people are probably aware of. The vast majority of retirement savings is held in tax-deferred accounts, like IRAs, pre-tax 401ks. And then, people just assume that, hey, you know what, it is what it is. I should have started saving in a Roth, a long time ago, but I didn't. Well, guess what? You can still build a strategy in retirement to improve your tax picture, because I think too many people are short-sighted. And I can be this way, Luann, about certain things. I can be short-sighted about stuff. But I think with your tax planning, I think you have to be more, look longer, because what we don't know is, what are the tax brackets going to be in the future? And I think and where I'm driving at here is building a Roth conversion strategy in some cases for some families. We don't know what the tax code is going to be 10, 15 years down the road. We know by law at the end of 2025, it's going to sunset. Everybody knows that. It gets harped on every radio show and every TV show out there. But they're trying to pass the new tax law through to extend it indefinitely. And by the way, indefinitely means until another congressional party gets together and changes it.
Changes it, exactly.
Yeah. So what it basically means is you'll get it extended for 3 more years. That's, in my opinion, that's what it looks like. Yeah. Now, another party comes in. You know what they say? Oh, everything that the previous administration did.
All hogwash.
It was all trash, and it was benefited the rich and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And then they can change it, right? So indefinitely means until somebody else changes it.
Right.
So, but what I do know is that if you work on a Roth conversion strategy, one of the benefits of doing that is that you get to basically disinherit the IRS in the future to a certain degree. And maybe entirely, right? Maybe it just depends on how much you convert. The thing that's hardest for most people to understand, or to really not to understand, but really to deal with, is when you do a Roth conversion, it creates a taxable event today in that tax year.
Right.
That's hard to swallow for some people because throughout our lives, we've been trying to reduce tax. And now we're going to convert on purpose and pay the tax bill to not have to pay down the road. And down the road is what we're worried about. We can't see around the curve. And with the amount of debt that the country has and we continue to rack up, you just have to assume at some point taxes, they have to go up a little bit. Now, I've said it before on the show, I'm not a fear monger. I'm not one of these people that say, oh, we're going to be in the 90% tax bracket. Well, that's what I think. But what if we are? Well, if you've Roth converted early in your retirement and you've gone ahead and kind of paid the taxes in say lower brackets today, then you don't have to worry about that as we move forward. So this is why tax planning is important in retirement. Yeah. And you have to be both short and long-sighted on this, I believe.
So we're talking about 3 pillars of financial stability, one being tax-efficient strategies, and then the other is investment management and reliable income. And honestly, those are half of what you guys take people through on your plan, the Rite Retirement process.
3/4 of.
Yeah, 3/4 of it. Yeah, 3/4 of it. So very important stuff that we're talking about. How do you help people evaluate the strength of each pillar that's in their current plan, Cris?
Yeah, we have a report card. Like I said, we have these different touch points that when we sit down with somebody in our second meeting, we go over these different touch points in that retirement plan. And that's done on a card. It's all easy to understand. It's also color coded. Say whether you're, if you're not doing a good job here, or maybe I shouldn't say it that way, if there's opportunities for improvement.
There it is.
We want to be positive on the radio
correct.
show.
Yes.
Politically correct. So it'll be coded red. It's like, okay, we got an opportunity here. Here's how we can help you. We can improve that. This is what we need to do. Here's the actions and steps we need to take. And then we just kind of lay it out for a family. So we evaluate a lot of different touch points. I won't go into all of them on the air today. And I probably won't ever go into all of them on the air because that's kind of our behind the scenes stuff that we do that we develop through our Rite Retirement process, because it's a little deeper than what you're going to get at the normal brokerage firm.
Okay. And then real quick, talk about why it is important to reassess your investment strategies as you're getting close to retirement.
Yeah. So you never know. I mean, I've seen people come in the office before and they are, they'll tell me, I've seen both sides. They'll say they're conservative. I run an analysis on their investments and they come back and they're really aggressive. You want to know that. You definitely want to know that because there are certain times when being aggressive is great. And here's the way I say it at the office is being aggressive is great when it's great. And when it's not, it's really bad. It's really, really bad. And so what you don't want to do is have this surprise where you thought you were conservative, but because the last 10 or 15 years has been really good in the markets, that, you're 2 years out from retirement, you think you're conservative, but all of a sudden your portfolio is weighted a lot heavier in equities due to recent performance. And you take a big loss right before retirement. That could be devastating. So understanding where you're at today is important, but then also where you need to be moving forward. So as you build a strategy to help you get through retirement, you have to be aware of how bad your investments can hurt you. And they can hurt you in a lot of ways. They can also help you in a lot of ways as well. But I've seen studies and reports that we've run on retirement plans where someone is willing and able to be more aggressive, but the plan itself doesn't function well, doesn't I'll call it math out well if someone's really, really aggressive, even though they want to be. But the risk, and we talked about running out of money earlier in retirement, and one of the opening topics of this segment here was if you're too aggressive and you lose too much early in retirement, for some people it's devastating, and it's almost, I won't say it's impossible. For some, it is. If you lose too much early in retirement, it can be devastating. It can absolutely ruin your plan. And remember, early in retirement, that's when we're supposed to be enjoying ourselves.
Right.
That's when we call it
fun.
Plan, retire, play.
The play years.
As you say, play. I like it.
Two syllables?
Play. Yes. But if you're too aggressive and you lose a lot, you may not be able to go out and play. And we want to be careful of that. And because if you lose, let's say you're age 60 and you retire and you lose 50% of your investment, value, you've got roughly 25, 30 years that you've got to make that half regrow and last. It sounds like to me, you might be sitting on the porch in some cases, not being able to go out there and play because, you lost too much. So you do that with a plan, Luann. And that's really what we want. The core focus of the show is not product. It's not just one specific strategy. It is a plan that entails multiple things, including multiple strategies to help a family get all the way through retirement. So, Luann, we are out of time. I just looked over at the clock. Yep. You've got a hard stop because you've got a place to go.
Yes.
And I wish you the best. I'll pray for you as soon as we're off air here. And we just hope everybody's had a great show. We welcome Graham back next week. Check on Graham.
Yeah.
And so I hope everybody has an awesome and blessed week. If you want to give us a call to set up your discovery session, you can do that. 256-937-2010. Again, the number's 256-937-2010. Again, have an awesome and blessed week. And remember to serve every person in every situation with a servant heart.
Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, AEWM. AEWM and WG Financial Group are not affiliated companies. Insurance products are offered through the insurance business WG Insurance Services. WG Financial Group is an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through AE Wealth Management, LLC, AEWM, a registered investment advisor. AEWM does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by WG Insurance Services are not subject to investment advisory requirements. AEWM and WG Financial Group are not affiliated companies. companies. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only and is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. WG Financial is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by WG Financial. This radio show is a paid placement.